Hey guys, Dr. Sable here. This is like my first real YouTube video. I don't know, but I wanted to kind of start making more of these. So this one is just gonna be about if you wanna be a dentist or an orthodontist. I'm just gonna explain what you have to do, okay? So first of all, you have to graduate high school. So I don't think it matters if you take the SAT or the ACT. You obviously have to take one for college. Well, I guess with COVID now, things have been a little different, but I'm assuming as things go on, if that happened to you and maybe you couldn't take the SAT, that dental schools will waive that. But if you're worried and you're about to graduate high school and you're going to college already, it wouldn't hurt to maybe just go ahead and take it. So you need to do that. And then in high school, I feel like I grew up in a really small town where I didn't really understand like what kind of jobs were out there, and I wasn't really exposed to a lot. And I mean, now the internet is like, so you can Google anything, you can watch this video if you want to be a dentist, like you can do whatever. And back in the day that wasn't really a thing. I mean, we had the internet, but it was different. So I was like, I felt like I was smart, and I wanted to do something that I had like a linear path kind of, because I didn't really understand that there were other jobs out there. So I was like, I'm going to be a dentist. I loved my orthodontist, I'm going to be an orthodontist. I loved her. So I shadowed my dentist like a few times, but nothing crazy. And then I played volleyball, club volleyball. So I got a scholarship to play that at the University of Buffalo. So I went there. I would say it's really hard to balance being a D1 athlete and trying to get into dental school or med school, but it's definitely doable. I kind of think I missed out on some fun sometimes, but that's okay. So I majored in biology, and I think the few things I did to make sure I got in, I was an athlete, so I felt like that was going to be used to my advantage no matter what. So I had that, and then I did a ton of shadowing, maybe like 100 hours or so. And that honestly is so easy to get. Like, even if you just did it in the summer, or you did like one day every semester, like think about how quickly 8 hours adds up. Or if you just want to go for like a half day and just write that down in a notebook somewhere, you don't need anyone to sign anything. You just have to keep track of what you do, and it's like an honor system. You just write it down in your application for dental school. So I would just say, just make sure you shadow once a semester, twice a semester somewhere, so you have that. And then you need to join some clubs. I was only in like one club, and that, again, it was because I had volleyball and like I just did not have time. But if you're not doing volleyball or a sport, you should definitely join a club and be a leader in one of them if you can. So that's something I recommend. And then another way you can stand out is like being a TA or something, maybe for like a chemistry lab or something. That's a good way to stand out. And then once you get through your third year, that's when you need to start thinking about applying for the DAT, which is the dental admission test to get in. And there are a few parts to that. You have to do like chemistry, biology. I think there's OChem on there. I can't remember for sure, but you can easily Google the sections. It feels like I took it so long ago. And then the other part of it is a PAT, and what that does is it looks to see if conceptually you can think kind of like a dentist. I wouldn't say it necessarily like correlates, but that's just it's just what they do to weed people out, you know? So that's on there. So I used Kaplan and Crack the DAT to study for that. And I recommend just doing like a practice test right away. And then after you do that, figure out your study routine and then take at least one practice test a week. Or if you don't want to take the test, read through the questions and look at the answer immediately. That's another way to save time if you maybe don't have all that time. And then I took that the summer before my fourth year of college. So took that test, I think in July. I had already applied to dental school, so they just needed my test. So I did all of that. I applied to 16 schools, which I think is way too many. But I just like didn't know where I wanted to go, and my parents paid for it, which thank God for them. They're so nice. But basically, one thing you'll find with dental school is if you're a resident in a state with a dental school, it is so cheap, unless you live in like New York or California. And then if you didn't, you have to go out of state, obviously. But my dental school was like, and cheap is relative here. My dental school, I think, was 40 or 60. I forget. And out of state, it was like so much more, maybe like 80 or 90. So you really, at the end of the day, I ended up going to Indiana because that's where I'm from. And it was just so much cheaper, and it made so much more sense to do that, especially because I like didn't want to have like twice as much debt. So I went there, or I got in there. So I applied to all those schools. I went on interviews in the fall of my 4th year of college. So I was a senior. And then I found out in the beginning of December where I got in, and then you just have to pay a deposit. I think it's usually like $1,000 to the school that you pick if you got into multiple that you want to go to, and just let the other ones know that you aren't. And then dental school starts the summer after your 4th year of college. A few other things I'll note: my GPA, I think I had a 4 or 3.8 in college. You don't need to have like the highest GPA. I think mine was pretty high, and then I made sure I had a really good DAT score, but again, you don't need that to get in. I just kind of took the road, like, I want to do everything I can to get in, that, like, what I can control, and so I did my best to do really well in the DAT, and sometimes it doesn't happen for everyone, but I wouldn't let that deter you. So I applied, got into IU. I will say another thing: when you apply, just writing a personal statement that makes you stand out and makes you seem like a relatable, nice person that wants to help the world and dentistry. Like, that's all you got to do. So I think just trying to be personable when you write that is really important, and not come off like really like robot or cookie cutter. So that's important. So once you get in, it's 4 years, so 4 years of dental school, and the first year is a lot of book work. So this is where I went to school. At other schools it's different, but mine was a lot of book work, so a lot of like science, stuff like that. And then the second year is where you really start to do like crown preps, bridge preps, root canals on models, stuff like that, and you really try to get your hand skills, is what we call it, up while you're doing book work. And second year was hardest for us. And then after your second year, they let you go into the clinic, 3rd and 4th year. So usually what happens is 3rd and 4th year, you basically just go to the clinic every day, and you have a patient in the morning, in the afternoon, and then you have classes like at 8 a.m. to 9, and then like sometimes in the afternoon, or you'll have them like in the morning, like, so that way you can still go to clinic, see patients and everything. So that's basically just a bit. There's a bunch of requirements for different things, but that really varies on where you go to school. I would also say, so if you want to be an orthodontist, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you have research. You don't have to have research to get in, but either you did some in college or do a little bit in dental school. You don't need to be published, but you just need to show that you know how to do a research project, because a lot of them you need to do those in ortho school. So that, being involved in clubs, you don't even necessarily need to be a leader in those clubs, but just being involved in some clubs. I did a student outreach clinic and kids club at my school, and I was on board member on both, but you don't have to be. And then, what else was I gonna say? So there's that. And then I made sure I had a really good GPA. Ortho's like one of the most competitive residencies to get into. So you need to make sure that you have a good GPA, so like top 20, top 10. And then you take the GRE, which is like, a lot of people take that for master's programs. So ortho residency, you usually also get a master's. So I have a, I don't know if that, so ortho residencies, you usually get a master's. So I have a DDS, like for doctor of dental surgery, and I also have an MS, Master of Science. And I'm also specialized in ortho now. So that's why you have to take the GRE. They usually give you requirements about what score you need. And I would say if you're applying to ortho school, you can easily hit that on the first or second try. You just need to make sure you understand the test and know how to take it basically, and then study for a few weeks. I think I studied for 3 or 4 weeks. So just doing that. There's an essay portion. It's so easy as long as you just read how they want you to write the essay. Like that's the main thing, is you just need to make sure you write it in the correct format. I think I had to write about like the Civil War in one of mine, and I had no idea what I was talking about because it was like asking me about history, and I was like, I don't know. I didn't know some of these people. I obviously know about the Civil War, but so I just basically wrote it in the format that I wanted and very vaguely, and it ended up being okay. So doing that, and then you'll apply at the end of your 3rd year. So same thing as for dental school. So you'll apply, and half of the ortho programs in the country have a match program. So I opted to do that, which means you can't apply to other programs not in the match, which is fine. So I applied to like 12 schools. I went on like 6 or 7 interviews, and then I ended up deciding to put Indiana first, which I'm really happy I did. Got in there, so went through 2 years, and I graduated in July. So it's 2 years of school. Some programs are 3, so you have to look at that and figure out where you want to go. So I did 2 years, and then graduated. I had to do a research project, and then we just saw patients basically every day, and then we had class in the morning, and then class during lunch usually, and then maybe like 1 at the end of the day. But it's pretty rigorous, but it was good. I learned a lot. So if you guys have any other questions or want me to maybe go into depth to something more, then I can try to make a more in-depth video. But leave your questions in the comments. Thanks, guys.